I've always believed that family should have your back, no matter what. That no matter how messy life gets, the people who share your blood are supposed to be the ones who show up when it matters. I clung to that belief longer than I should have, especially when it came to my sister, Hannah. We grew up close, just a year apart. I'm Connor, 36 now, and if you'd asked me 5 years ago, I would have said Hannah was my best friend. We were the kind of siblings who'd finish each other's sentences as kids, team up to prank our cousins at Thanksgiving, and sneak out of weddings early to go grab burgers in our formal wear. She was loud, charismatic, the kind of person who could turn a room into a stage and always knew how to get a laugh. But somewhere along the way, the spotlight stopped being a quirk and became her obsession. It started small. She launched a little family vlog during the pandemic. Nothing too crazy at first. A few silly videos with her husband, Matt, and their son, Mason. She'd record trips to the zoo or funny family moments, edit them on her phone, and post them to YouTube with titles like Our Toddler's First Tantrum, or Caught My Husband Singing in the Shower. I didn't think much of it back then. It felt harmless, maybe even a cute outlet while everyone was stuck at home. But as her follower count grew, and it grew fast, like wildfire on dry grass, her definition of content started to shift. Suddenly, every moment became a potential viral clip. Mason wasn't just her son anymore. He was the star of the show. And Hannah? She was the director, producer, and hype woman rolled into one, always chasing the next trending moment, no matter the cost. At first, it was just annoying. She'd whip out her phone during every family event, narrating everything like she was hosting a live show. Say hi to the vlog, she'd chirp, even if we were just trying to eat in peace. Once, during Easter brunch, she filmed my mom dropping an entire plate of deviled eggs and titled the video Grandma's Epic Egg Fail, complete with emojis and fake crying sound effects. Mom laughed it off, but I could tell it embarrassed her. I pulled Hannah aside afterward and told her to tone it down. Her response? A casual shrug and, "You don't get it, Connor. This is how the algorithm works." Like that somehow made it okay. But I didn't push too hard. I figured, fine, let her chase views. I kept my distance, set some boundaries when it came to my own son, Dylan, and made it clear I didn't want him in her videos. She rolled her eyes at that, muttered something about me being anti-fun, but she complied. Mostly. And for a while, that uneasy truce held. We carpooled our boys to school together, rotated weekend babysitting so we could each get a break, and even split the cost of the summer cabin we all used each July. It worked. Not perfectly, but enough. Until Dylan's 7th birthday party. I'd been planning it for weeks. He's into dinosaurs right now, full-on obsession, so we rented out a small pavilion at the park, decorated it with jungle vines and cardboard T-Rex cutouts, and even hired a local bakery to make a 2-tiered cake shaped like a volcano. I went all out. It wasn't just about the party. It was about giving Dylan a memory, something special after a rough school year. He's a shy kid, not the type to beg for attention like Mason, and this was his moment. His day? I made sure everything was perfect. His favorite music, Dino-themed goodie bags, even little explorer hats for the kids. The party started off great. Dylan was smiling, laughing with his friends, showing off the fossils he'd helped bury in the sandbox for a dig site activity. Parents were chatting, the sun was out, and I finally let myself breathe. Then Hannah showed up. Late, of course, 35 minutes after the invite said, strutting in with Matt and Mason like they were walking a red carpet. And right away, I felt that old familiar jolt of dread. She was holding her phone up, narrating their entrance like it was some big reveal. "We made it to Dino Fest 2025, guys," she said into the camera, spinning to get a panoramic shot of the party. "Look at all these little adventurers." I approached her and gently reminded her not to film Dylan. "He doesn't like the attention," I said. "You know that." She gave me a look, that tight-lipped smirk she always used when she thought I was being uptight, and said, "Relax, I'm just capturing memories." Then she turned her phone back on and kept recording anyway. I tried to ignore it. I focused on Dylan, who was showing Mason the fossil dig site, and told myself to pick my battles. That was my mistake. Because about 30 minutes later, when we were all gathered around the picnic table to sing happy birthday, it happened. The cake was brought out with candles lit, kids clapping and cheering, Dylan's eyes wide with awe. I was standing beside him, arm around his shoulders, getting ready to start the song. That's when Mason, grinning wildly, suddenly climbed onto the table. I barely had time to react before he stomped toward the cake and, in one swift motion, kicked it. Kicked. The cake. It didn't just fall. It flew. The top tier spun midair like some cruel slow-motion scene before crashing into the dirt. Frosting exploded across the grass. Chocolate smeared down the side of the table. And Dylan, my sweet, sensitive kid, just froze. His face crumpled. He didn't cry. Not right away. He just looked at the mess, blinking, confused, like he couldn't quite believe what had just happened. Then I heard it. Laughter. Not just from Mason, who was already giggling and hopping off the table, but from Hannah. She was filming. Still filming. I turned and saw her phone pointed right at the wreckage, her other hand over her mouth as she laughed, and said, "Oh my gosh, this is gold. Content for my channel." And that's when something in me snapped. I wasn't yelling. I didn't cause a scene. I just walked up to her, quiet and tense, and said, "Hannah, turn it off. Now." She lowered her phone, still smiling, but her voice took on that condescending tone she used when she thought she was being the bigger person. "Connor, come on. It's not that serious. It's just a cake. Relax. You should be grateful we even showed up." I didn't answer. I didn't have the words, not yet. All I could think about was Dylan, still standing beside me, his shoulders trembling now. I pulled him into a hug, told him we'd fix it, and spent the next 20 minutes trying to salvage the rest of the party. Some parents helped clean up. One mom offered to run to a bakery nearby, but the magic was gone. Dylan smiled through it, but I could tell he was forcing it. His birthday had been hijacked. That night, after everyone went home and Dylan was finally asleep, I sat alone in the kitchen. My hands were still sticky from frosting. My stomach churned with quiet rage. And that's when I made my decision. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I didn't scream or post some dramatic rant. I just acted. Quietly. Methodically. I opened up the carpool spreadsheet we shared on Google Docs and removed her family from the schedule. I logged into the cabin rental site we used every summer, the one where we'd split costs and picked weeks, and canceled her July reservation. I updated the childcare rotation calendar we'd both agreed to last fall, the one she begged me to join because we need help and you're the only one we trust, and marked every slot as unavailable. Her name vanished like smoke. By morning, my phone was lighting up. The first text came at 7:11 a.m. Just a simple, "Hey, something's wrong with the carpool dock. Did you mess something up?" Like she thought I had accidentally erased her name. No apology. No follow-up about the cake. No mention of Dylan's birthday being derailed. Just confusion. Maybe a little annoyance that her plans weren't lining up neatly anymore. I didn't answer. At 7:23, she called. I let it ring. She texted again. "Connor? Hello? I can't see our cabin booking either. Did the site crash?" 3 crying laughing emojis. As if this were all some hilarious little mix-up. By 7:35, the tone had changed. "Connor, this isn't funny. Mason has karate at 8:15 and I need to know who's doing pickup." 8:01, seriously. Are you mad or something? Call me. 8:17, why is everything canceled? We need you. The last one hit a nerve. Not because of the words, but because of how casually they summed up everything that had been festering under the surface for years. We need you. Not, we appreciate you. Not, we're sorry for ruining your son's birthday. Just the expectation that I would continue to bend, carry, accommodate, because that's what I'd always done. And I'll admit, a part of me, the part that still remembered late-night movie marathons and matching Halloween costumes as kids, felt a flicker of guilt. But it didn't last. Because as the hours passed and the silence stretched, the dam finally broke. Hannah didn't take the hint. Instead of backing off or, God forbid, apologizing, she doubled down. That afternoon, I got a notification that she'd tagged me in a video on her channel. My stomach dropped. I clicked. The thumbnail was a split image. On one side, Mason kicking the cake midair, and on the other, a still of Dylan staring at the wreckage with wide eyes. Overlaid text in bold white font read, "Birthday party disaster. You won't believe what happened." Underneath, the caption said, "When cousins collide and chaos follows, #family life, #epic fail, #viral moment." I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. She didn't just film it. She posted it. Publicly. With my son's face. After I'd explicitly told her not to include him in her videos. After she'd laughed when his birthday was ruined. Now she was turning it into clickbait for her followers to gawk at. I scrolled through the comments, hands shaking. LMAO the kid's face. Poor volcano cake. Mason's a savage. That dad at the end looks ready to explode. That's when I realized she'd left the video unedited. You could hear me, off camera, telling her to stop filming. You could hear Dylan's voice, small and confused, saying, "Why did he do that?" And you could hear Hannah's cackle, clear as day. I reported the video, flagged it for privacy violation. Then I blocked her account. But the damage was already done. That night, Matt texted me, "Hey man, can we talk?" No apology, no acknowledgement. Just can we talk? As if he was stepping in to mediate some silly sibling squabble. I didn't respond. Instead, I sat in Dylan's room, helping him rebuild the Lego T-Rex he'd been working on before the party. He was quiet, more than usual, focused. But at one point, without looking up, he asked, "Why did Mason do that to my cake?" I didn't know how to answer. A few days passed. I kept things quiet, dropped Dylan off at school myself, arranged for another parent to handle pickup, updated the summer cabin to reflect solo use, cleaned up the leftover decorations that had been sitting in the garage, half-deflated balloons, and frosting-smeared tablecloths stuffed into trash bags. It should have felt like closure, but it didn't, because Hannah wasn't done. On Thursday, she showed up at my house. I saw her through the front window, parked crookedly in my driveway, storming up the steps like she owned the place. I opened the door before she could knock. "Connor," she said, arms crossed. "What is going on?" I didn't invite her in. I just stood there. "You canceled everything," she said. "Carpool, the cabin, even the babysitting stuff. You blocked me on socials, and Matt said you ignored his texts. What is your problem?" I stared at her. "You filmed my son without my permission. You let Mason destroy his birthday. You laughed, and then you posted it for views." She scoffed. "Connor, you're being so dramatic. It was just a funny moment. Everyone thought it was hilarious. You're acting like I did it on purpose. You encouraged it, Hannah. You filmed it. You posted it. You turned my kid's pain into entertainment." Her expression shifted, not to remorse, but to irritation. Like I was the unreasonable one. "You're blowing this way out of proportion. Mason's a kid. Kids do dumb stuff. You need to grow a thicker skin." I felt my jaw clench. "You don't get to decide what hurts my kid. And you don't get to play the victim now that your convenience is gone." Her arms dropped to her sides. "So what? You're just cutting us off? After everything we've done for each other? After everything I've done for you?" I corrected. "The rides. The weekends. The cabin. The babysitting. All the times I rearranged my schedule because you had a shoot or Matt was working late. And every time, I said yes. But when it was Dylan's turn to have a moment, just one moment, you turned it into a joke." She didn't respond. Just stood there, blinking, like I'd slapped her with a truth she wasn't ready to hear. Then she muttered, "Fine. Be petty. But don't come crawling back when you need us." And with that, she walked away. I closed the door and leaned against it, heart pounding. I wanted to feel triumphant, liberated. But instead, there was this strange hollowness inside me. Not regret exactly, but a kind of grief. Like something that had been broken a long time ago had finally snapped in half. For years, I'd been holding it together with duct tape and guilt. And now, I had to face the truth. I didn't trust my sister anymore. Not with my kid. Not with my time. Not with my life. I thought that would be the end of it. But then came the betrayal I didn't see coming. The following Monday, I got a call from Dylan's school. The secretary, Mrs. Grayson, sounded polite but hesitant. "Mr. Hayes? I just wanted to confirm. Has there been a change in Dylan's pickup arrangement?" My stomach dropped. "No. What?" "Well, someone called earlier today pretending to be you. They said Dylan's aunt would be picking him up from now on. But the voice didn't match our records, and it raised some red flags, so we held off." My blood ran cold. I knew exactly who it was. I rushed to the school and confirmed that no one else had access to Dylan's pickup list. I updated everything with security notes. I added a passcode, and I made it very clear that under no circumstance was Hannah allowed to take Dylan. That night, I got an email. Subject line, "We need to talk. Family shouldn't be enemies." It was a long message from Hannah. Rambling. Defensive. She said she'd only called the school to help out, that I was making things weird, that I needed to stop acting like she's the bad guy. And buried halfway through was a line that made my skin crawl. "You're turning Dylan against his own family. That's emotional manipulation, Connor." Just because you're mad doesn't mean he shouldn't get to see his cousin. I stared at that sentence for a long time, and something inside me shifted. This wasn't about a ruined birthday anymore. This wasn't about cake or carpool or cabins. This was about control, about entitlement, about someone who believed that access to my child was her right, not a privilege. Someone who'd weaponize family guilt, who'd cross boundaries, who'd lie to a school, to insert herself back into a life she was no longer welcome in. I closed the email, and I started making a plan, not just to shut her out, but to make sure she finally understood what it felt like to be pushed aside, to be erased, to be treated like a background character in someone else's show. The first week after the fallout felt like learning to walk again. Suddenly, I was waking up earlier to drop Dylan off myself, packing extra snacks, managing playdates solo, double-checking every appointment, every calendar alert. There were nights I barely made it to bedtime without collapsing on the couch with takeout and an ice pack on my neck. But in those quiet, exhausted evenings, when the house was dark and Dylan was snoring softly down the hall, I found something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Real peace. Not the fake kind where you smile politely through family dinners and swallow every slight, because that's just how she is. Not the forced kind where you laugh off your kid's ruined birthday cake because you're worried about being too sensitive. This was different. There was no background noise, no chaotic phone calls, no last-minute favors disguised as emergencies. No Hannah, just me, my son, and a growing sense of clarity. Of course, things weren't perfect. Dylan asked about Mason a lot at first. He missed his cousin, and I didn't know how to explain what had happened in a way that didn't place the weight of adult problems on a 7-year-old's shoulders. So I kept it simple. I told him that sometimes grown-ups need space, even from people they love, when those people aren't being kind. He seemed to accept that. Kids are resilient in ways we forget. He started gravitating more toward his classmates anyway. He got really into building marble tracks and showing off new moves at recess. A few weeks later, he stopped bringing Mason up at all. The real challenge wasn't Dylan. It was everyone else. My mom called first. "What happened between you and your sister?" she asked, already weary. "Hannah says you're freezing her out." I paused. "Did she tell you why?" "She mentioned something about Dylan's party, but, Connor, she's your sister. She posted a video of Dylan's cake being destroyed. On purpose. She filmed it, laughed at it, then uploaded it to make money. After I told her not to." Silence. "She didn't say all that," Mom finally replied. "She just said you were upset and being harsh." "Look, I'm not taking sides. You don't have to." I cut in. "Just don't ask me to pretend it didn't happen." I think that was the first time my mother didn't have a response ready. She just sighed and said, "Okay, I hear you. I'll stay out of it." It wasn't support exactly, but it was enough. Then came the next surprise. Dylan's teacher pulled me aside one Friday afternoon and handed me a flyer. "We're starting a parent committee for the spring fair," she said. "A few of us thought you might be perfect to help coordinate." I blinked. "Me?" She smiled. "You're always on time. You're involved. And honestly, you're one of the calmest parents we've got." It threw me off. I'd spent the last month feeling like I was barely keeping my head above water. But apparently, from the outside, I looked steady, capable, like someone people could count on. That moment stayed with me, because I realized something. For years, I'd let myself be boxed into this quiet, reliable role. The dependable older brother, the background support system, the guy who'd drop everything if you needed help moving a couch or picking up your kid last minute. And while there's nothing wrong with being dependable, I'd let it turn into a prison. I'd stopped asking what I wanted, what made me feel alive. So I started small. I signed up for the spring fair committee, took Dylan on a weekend trip to the Science Museum, spent a full Saturday reorganizing the garage, something I'd been putting off for 2 years. I even, cautiously, rejoined a group of friends I used to meet for trivia night, before life got too busy and I was always watching Mason for Hannah. Each little change felt like reclaiming a piece of myself, a version of Connor that existed before I became everyone else's crutch. And as I found my footing, something unexpected happened. People noticed. I got a call from Melissa, a single mom in Dylan's class. We'd chatted once or twice at pickup. "Hey, this is kind of random," she said, "but I heard you helped organize the fossil dig at Dylan's party. That was such a cool idea. I'm throwing something for my daughter next month and wondered if you'd be willing to help." That led to another parent reaching out. then another. Before I knew it, I was running a little side hustle, not officially, not yet, helping organize kids' parties. And I was good at it. I knew how to work with parents, how to keep things budget-friendly but memorable, how to avoid disasters like, say, a flying cake. The irony didn't escape me. The very thing Hannah mocked, the effort I'd put into making Dylan's day special, had become the foundation of something new, something mine. Meanwhile, Hannah's own world started to show cracks. I wasn't stalking her channel, but someone sent me a clip. It was a Q&A video, shot in her kitchen, with Matt slumped beside her and Mason off-camera yelling about cereal. "So many of you have asked why we've been so quiet lately," she began, eyes bright and voice pitched with false cheer. "We've just been dealing with some family drama. You know how it is." Matt looked like he wanted to disappear. A few weeks after that, my mom called again. This time, her voice was careful. "Hannah's upset you're not speaking to her. I'm aware. She says you've poisoned Dylan against Mason. Dylan hasn't said a word about Mason in over a month. She misses you," my mom said. "She misses her brother." I paused. "Does she miss me?" I asked. "Or does she miss what I did for her?" That time, Mom didn't argue. In late March, I got an email from the rental company that manages the summer cabin. Apparently, Hannah had tried to rebook, same week, same request, and had been denied. My name was still the primary on the shared agreement. I'd kept the week reserved, just for me and Dylan. A few days later, Matt texted me again. Not a guilt trip this time. Just 4 words. "She's spiraling. I'm sorry. It should have felt like vindication. Instead, it made me uneasy. Because I knew Hannah. I knew she wouldn't let go easily. The more the world told her no, the more desperate she'd become to force a yes. And I was right. The final blow didn't come with shouting. It came with silence. One afternoon, Dylan came home from school with a folded-up note in his backpack. "From Mason," he said, looking confused. He passed it to me at lunch. I opened it. Scrawled in messy handwriting was a single sentence. "My mom says you hate us." I froze. Dylan looked up at me. "Is that true?" I knelt beside him. "No, buddy. That's not true. I don't hate anyone. But sometimes, even people we love can hurt us. And when that happens, we have to protect ourselves." He nodded slowly. "Okay, can I still go to the fair with you?" I smiled. "You bet." That night, after he went to bed, I stared at that note for a long time, turning it over, reading it again and again. It wasn't Mason's fault. He was just a kid, caught in the crossfire of his mother's bitterness. But the message was Hannah's. Clear, petty, weaponized through her son. And that was the moment I knew this wouldn't end unless I ended it. Not with another text. Not with a conversation. With action. If there's one thing I've learned from being a dependable sibling, it's this. People underestimate the quiet ones. They mistake your silence for weakness, your patience for passivity, your consistency for compliance. Hannah had done that all her life. And now, she was about to learn how dangerous it can be when the person you've been walking all over decides to stand up. Not with rage, not with noise, but with intent. I wasn't just going to block her. I was going to make sure the systems she leaned on, the ones she'd come to expect as her right, slowly slipped through her fingers. I wanted the fallout to feel like gravity reversing. Like the world she'd built on convenience, clout, and favors from Connor was suddenly weightless, and she had no idea why. But I had to be smart, strategic, surgical. Step 1. Eliminate the social capital she built on my back. See, a lot of Hannah's brand relied on her image as a supermom, not just to her followers, to our extended family, her neighbors, her son's school. She played the role of the organized, creative, high-energy parent who somehow managed a channel and coordinated class events, and filmed weekly vlogs, and stayed relatable while doing it. But behind the scenes, she leaned heavily on me to keep that illusion intact. When she needed someone to fill in last minute at the bake sale, I stepped up. When her laptop crashed before an upload, and she had to emergency drop Mason off for a few hours, I said yes. When the school called asking if Hannah could spearhead the Halloween decorations, and she accidentally double-booked herself with a brand sponsorship shoot, she'd send me with her clipboard and instructions. So I stopped stepping up. I waited for the next ask. It didn't take long. An email went out to the Spring Fair Committee. Hannah had volunteered to run the scavenger hunt for the younger kids. Only, as usual, she hadn't actually planned anything. She texted me one morning. "Hey, random Q. Would you have time to put together that scavenger hunt thing again? You did such a great job with Dylan's party, and I told the school I'd cover it. But now I've got a paid shoot that day and I didn't respond. The day before the fair, the committee group chat started buzzing. Parents asking if materials had been dropped off. Confusion. A few awkward "anyone heard from Hannah?" messages. I stayed quiet. That Saturday, she showed up late. Again, only to find the scavenger hunt had been quietly reassigned. Melissa had jumped in with a clipboard and printed clues from Pinterest. The kids had a blast. And Hannah? She was sidelined. No spotlight. No footage for her channel. Just a lot of awkward. Oh, I thought I was supposed to. And no one left to cover for her. Step 2. Reclaim my network. Over the years, I developed quiet but meaningful relationships with a lot of the other parents. People who appreciated the way I handled things. Who trusted me. And who, I realized now, had probably assumed I was just part of Hannah's machine. Her helpful older brother who didn't mind being dragged along. So I started showing up. Alone. I offered to run the end-of-year field trip. I helped organize the art auction for the school fundraiser. I brought cupcakes to a birthday party Dylan was invited to. Made them myself, messy and uneven, but they got smiles. And slowly, people stopped asking, "Where's your sister?" They started saying things like, "I didn't know you were such a great baker," or, "You should do more of these. You're better than the party planners we hire." That gave me an idea. I started building a small event planning side gig. Quietly. No flashy website. Just word of mouth. Connor Hayes Parties became a name that circulated among local parents. Someone who could pull together fun, creative, emotionally thoughtful events for kids without the chaos. I booked 3 birthdays that spring. Then a preschool graduation party. Then a mother-daughter tea. Each one was a subtle act of revenge. Because every gig I took, every booking I secured, was a reminder that I didn't need Hannah's orbit. That the value I brought to others was mine alone. And every time someone praised me for my ideas, I felt a piece of the old narrative dissolve. Step 3. Hit the brand. Now, this next part might sound cold. But remember, Hannah didn't just ruin a birthday. She crossed a line. She weaponized my child's face for profit. And no matter how much she pretended it was just content, she monetized a moment of humiliation and called it entertainment. That deserved more than silence. So I created an anonymous email. And I started watching. You'd be shocked how careless influencers get when they think they're invincible. Hannah had a public business email listed on her YouTube channel, supposedly for brand partnerships only. But in reality, she used it for everything: RSVPs, vendor deals, even her PDA communications. I compiled a few receipts. Clips of her filming Mason during a meltdown in a grocery store. Him begging her to turn it off. A video where he slipped and hit his knee and she kept filming, only adding "oh" sound effects in post. The birthday party video was already deleted, probably flagged by enough people to trigger a takedown, but others remained. Then I reached out to a couple of brands she'd recently partnered with. Not with threats, just facts. Hi, I saw you recently collaborated with the Life with Hannah channel. I wanted to flag a concern about how minors are being filmed on her platform without consent or awareness. This includes instances of emotional distress being monetized for views. Happy to provide time-stamped examples if needed. I sent 3 emails. 2 responded. One was a toy brand, small but growing, that had featured her in a Mommy and Me promo. They thanked me for raising the concern. Said they take child privacy seriously and would be reviewing their policies. I checked her channel a week later. The collab post was gone. No explanation. No repost. Then I contacted a parenting blog where she'd been featured, Rising Momfluencers of the Month. I left a detailed comment under the article, anonymously, with specific clips and timestamps, all pointing to the same issue: child exploitation under the guise of relatability. The post was quietly edited the next day. Her name removed. Step 4. Cut off the fallback plans. Hannah had always leaned on the idea that I'd be there, not just emotionally, but logistically. I was the backup, the emergency contact, the person she listed when she needed someone stable, reliable, available. So I made it official. I contacted the school and asked to be removed from any forms that listed me as Mason's emergency contact. I deleted myself from our joint family Google Calendar. One she'd continued updating with group events, apparently assuming I'd cave. I emailed the Summer Cabin's co-owners, a group of longtime family friends, and requested sole access to the week I'd booked. I explained the situation in calm, non-accusatory language. We've had a family boundary issue, and I'd appreciate the privacy this summer to avoid any conflict. They agreed. The final piece was Dylan's upcoming birthday. I told him we were going somewhere special. Not a party this time, a trip. Just the two of us. I booked flights to a kid-friendly resort with water slides, fossil hunts, and even a dinosaur-themed room. I contacted the staff ahead of time and asked if they could organize a surprise in-room cake on the second night. One shaped like a volcano. They said yes. I didn't post about it. I didn't tell anyone. But I knew, eventually, Hannah would find out. Because when someone's used to filming their life for content, not being included in someone else's becomes its own kind of punishment. And when her followers asked why she wasn't doing another Cousins collab birthday bash, like last year, she'd have no footage. No answer. Just silence. Step 5, and this was important, build a firewall. Because people like Hannah don't retreat when cornered. They lash out. They spin stories. They rewrite history. I needed allies, people who'd seen the change, who understood the quiet shift that had happened, and who'd vouch for me if she started playing victim again. So I stayed visible. I remained active on the school committee. I continued helping with events. I sent thank you notes. I checked in on parents who seemed overwhelmed. Not performatively, just consistently. Quiet, steady presence. And as I did, I noticed the way people looked at me changed. They didn't see Hannah's brother anymore. They saw Connor. Reliable, respectful, thoughtful, independent. Exactly the opposite of the version she'd painted when she told people I'd lost it over a cake. By late spring, she started to feel it. I know, because she tried to get ahead of it. One night, Melissa, the mom who'd taken over the scavenger hunt, texted me a screenshot. Hannah had posted a story to her close friends list. It was a black screen with text. It's hard when the people you thought were family turn out to be bitter and jealous. Just because I'm successful doesn't mean I deserve to be punished. Melissa wrote underneath. Was this about you? I just replied, probably. But I didn't care. I don't believe in dramatic showdowns. No slammed doors. No screaming matches in the middle of a driveway. That's Hannah's thing, the big, performative collapse. I was aiming for something quieter, more permanent. A shift so clean and precise that when she finally realized what happened, it would already be too late to undo any of it. And the perfect opportunity came wrapped in balloons and Dino print luggage. Dylan's 8th birthday trip was everything his 7th should have been. 3 days in a resort where the towels were folded like dinosaurs. The hotel staff called him Professor Dylan. And we spent hours digging for fake fossils under the sun. No stage lights. No phone cameras shoved in his face. Just real memories. Real smiles. And on the last night, as promised, a chocolate volcano cake with dry ice pouring out of the top. When he saw it, he turned to me, wide-eyed, and whispered, "This is the best birthday ever." I didn't cry, but it was close. The best part? Hannah had no idea. Not until the photos started circulating in the parents' group chat. Not from me. I wasn't about to brag. But one of the moms at school, whose kid I'd helped with a birthday setup earlier that month, casually mentioned we were out of town and sent a picture Dylan had taken with her son the week before. Another mom chimed in. "Did you see Connor's cake setup last year? I bet the resort one was amazing." Someone else added, "I didn't know they were traveling." That's so sweet. And just like that, the silence Hannah had taken as temporary became something else. Exclusion. Irrelevance. She called me twice while we were at the resort. I let them go to voicemail. The messages weren't angry, not yet. Just confused. Friendly, even. "Hey, just wanted to check in. Mason's asking if you and Dylan are around this weekend. Connor, hope everything's okay. Let me know when you're free." Then came the shift. 3 days after we got back, she showed up. Again. I was in the driveway unloading groceries when her car pulled in without warning, her tires a little too fast for the suburban street. She didn't even get out at first. Just sat there for a moment, gripping the wheel, then finally opened the door and stormed out. "We need to talk." I stayed calm. "Hannah, you're on my property. Say what you need to say, then go." She blinked, thrown by how measured I was. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Why are you freezing us out like we're strangers?" I didn't answer right away. Just let the silence stretch. "You could have just told me you were upset," she snapped. "Instead, you cut us off, made me look like some kind of monster. You filmed my kid," I said quiet. "You posted it. You laughed when his cake hit the ground. You humiliated him, then called it content. And when I said stop, you called me dramatic. Her arms folded tight. It wasn't like that. You know it wasn't. It was exactly like that. She tried a different tactic. Mason misses Dylan. He thinks you hate us. He cried last night. I swallowed. I'm not punishing Mason, but I won't let Dylan be around someone who sees his feelings as punchlines. And I won't let you keep rewriting what happened. Her face hardened. So what? This is just it. We're done? Over a cake. No, I said. Not over a cake. Over years of this. The favors. The manipulation. The way you use people and call it love. You crossed a line, and now I'm choosing not to step back over it. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just said, you'll regret this. And walked away. But I didn't regret it. Because the final step of the plan was already in motion. You remember that anonymous email I mentioned? The one where I flagged her content to the brands. That wasn't a one-time thing. I'd also submitted a report to YouTube's policy team under my real name. Carefully documented, with full timestamps, screenshots, and a formal complaint about the exploitation of minors in monetized content. It took time, but I wasn't the only one. Turns out, once people start looking closely, they start noticing the cracks. Especially when you've been using your kids' tantrums, injuries, and tears as weekly entertainment. 2 weeks after our confrontation, her channel was demonetized. She posted a vague community update. We're dealing with some unexpected platform issues. Please support us on Patreon while we sort things out. But it didn't take long for the comments to fill with speculation. Wasn't she reported for filming her kid during a meltdown? Someone said she got flagged for violating child safety rules. I used to love this channel, but it started feeling so invasive. She started deleting comments, then disabled them altogether. The likes stopped growing. The upload slowed. And within a month, the channel was gone. Just like that. Her brand, the thing she sacrificed our relationship for, evaporated. I didn't gloat. I didn't text her. I didn't say, I told you so. Because I didn't need to. The silence said everything. But the real fallout? That happened offline. See, without her channel, Hannah lost her clout in the local parenting community. The PDA didn't invite her to help with next year's fall festival. A few of the moms she used to boss around stopped returning her messages. One of them told me, quietly, that they'd always felt pressured to let their kids be filmed when Mason was around. It just started feeling weird, she said. Even Matt stopped playing along. I saw him one afternoon at school pickup alone. Mason ran up to him, not a phone in sight. Matt nodded at me, not warmly, but respectfully. He looked tired, but free. I heard through my mom later that they'd separated. Nothing official yet, but Matt had moved into his brother's place temporarily. Hannah was posting cryptic updates on a locked Instagram account. Things like, when they betray you, rebuild, and real ones stay. But the truth was, she wasn't rebuilding anything. Because no one was helping her anymore. Not even me. As for me and Dylan, we're good. Better than good, actually. The summer trip unlocked something in us. This shared understanding that we get to define what family looks like. We spend weekends building things together now. He's into stop-motion animation, so we set up a little studio in the corner of his room. He made a short film where a Lego dinosaur throws a party, and nothing goes wrong. No flying cake. No cameras filming tears. Just fun. A few nights ago, he looked up from his iPad and said, I like it when it's just us. I ruffled his hair and said, me too, bud. And that's the thing about people like Hannah. They build their world so loudly that they forget what quiet love feels like. They chase attention so fast, they miss the actual moments that matter. And when the spotlight fades, they realize something terrifying. No one's clapping anymore. My revenge wasn't explosive. It was deliberate, lasting. And when the dust finally settled, I didn't just get peace. I got my life back.